Hey everybody, this is Mike. Welcome back to the Z Motorsports Shopping Channel. We're doing some work on the Monaco today to get ready for the 2025 travel season. And the coolant tubes for the chassis engine were starting to get a little worse for wear. So any of you who have one of these coaches, please crawl up underneath, look at your rigid tubes, and do a thorough inspection on them because they will corrode and get pitted. And I've heard of them failing on people, even on much newer coaches than ours. Ours is 22, almost 23 years old now, with 150,000, just about pushing 150,000 miles. And I've already cleaned these up and painted them twice in 18 years we've owned the coach. We bought it in 07. And I think it was right before, it was end of 08 or early 09 when I dumped all the coolant, did a complete flush refill multiple times to do away from the ethylene glycol with the SCA and went to the new OAT coolant that was coming in all the newer coaches. So at that time I put the Fleet Guard Complete ES, or ES Complete rather, in it. And I run that for about 8 years, about what they recommended. And then in 16, we were getting ready for a trip to Texas, and I lost the water pump. So I had a water pump leaking, and that was right out of 100,000 miles. So I placed the water pump. I also did all the heater hoses from the engine up to the aqua hot to the dash. I did all those in silicone 5/8 heater hose. And at that point, when I was dumping it, I looked at this, and when I pulled these tubes out in 09, I sanded them down. They were getting a little corroded, but not terrible. Not a real lot of pitting or anything, but they were just starting to get. They were starting to get to where I was getting concerned. So I sanded them all down in 09, used metal etching primer, and then a couple coats of chassis black, and put it back together. They look pretty, turned out pretty good. Put it back together again in 2016, early 2016, when we did the water pump and everything. They were, by that time, they were looking pretty bad. They, not bad enough to replace. I probably should have, but I didn't. I sanded them down again, wire wheeled them, and I coated them with some Por 15. Thinking that was going to buy me a lot of time, because to be honest with you, Wi-Fi actually thought we would be upgrading coaches by then. So I thought, if it lasts me, 5-6 years or whatever, no problem. Well, here we are 8 years later, almost 8 years later, and they're really looking bad. The Por 15, it's stuck in some places, but didn't do real good in others. Now, that being said, these live in a harsh environment. They're right behind the drive axle and tag, so all that road debris, rocks, gravel, everything comes flying up. It's hitting this lower tube anyway. The upper tube actually held up pretty good. Obviously, it's up above the frame rails in the engine bay, but this bottom one really had me concerned. When I knew this season I was going to dump the coolant and do a refill. So when I did it in 16, I went with the Peak, and this is not an advertisement for any coolant. You use whatever you want, but I did switch over from the Fleet Guard ES Complete to the Peak Final Charge Global, mainly because it was more readily available. As much as we travel and everything, and if you got an RV, you're traveling. You're not always going to have the convenience of your specific shop that carries your coolant. So kind of keep that in mind. And you can buy that Peak Final Charge just about any truck stop, heavy truck shop or whatever. So that's why I switched over to it, and I've actually been really happy with it. I'm going back to the Pro Series this time. But anyway, I switched over to that, Por 15 to everything, put it back in, and when I was crawling underneath it here just late last year when I was doing the final season check over, I noticed it's really getting bad. So I ordered. The wife and I are actually planning on keeping the coach now through retirement. We were originally going to upgrade, but to be honest with you, I'm not really impressed with anything newer out there. And I love ours, so I'm just going to keep it on the road. And this system here will probably outlive me and the coach both. But anyway, I used some stainless steel tube and then welded the joints and everything in it, TIG welded everything. So I'll go through and show you kind of how I did that. Now you don't have to use stainless. You can use regular mild steel. That's all Monaco / Roadmaster did, was use regular mild steel. And I think most everybody, Freightliner, I think most all those are Spartan even maybe. Maybe when you get up into the higher end. I know Newell and Prevost did on a lot of them, but I know Newell used stainless on a lot of theirs. But for the most part, you're going to be looking at either a galvanized steel or just a carbon steel that's been painted. So this lasted 23 years. I could have just easily gone and went ahead and went carbon steel and painted it again and probably been fine. But seeing as how the wife and I decided that we made that decision that we are keeping this coach until we can no longer RV, that's why I chose to go with the stainless steel, and I also decided to switch over to silicone hose. Again, nothing wrong with rubber. I have 3 sets of rubber hoses on this in the 23 years that it's been on the road, and like I said, 145 plus thousand, almost pushing 150,000 miles. Rubber, I have nothing wrong against carbon steel or rubber. It's just a little bit better stainless and a little bit better, the silicone's a little bit better than the rubber. So that's the only reason why I went this route. And if I was having to pay to have this done or buy these tubes, maybe that would be a different decision. But to where I'm building it all myself and whatnot, it's just basically material. So yeah, I did pay a little bit more for the materials, but I think I've got a system now that'll probably, like I said, outlive me and the coach. Now, that being said, this is not going to be a direct how-to video on how to do this. I'm not going to go into teaching how to TIG weld stainless steel. There's plenty of videos on that out there. I do encourage you to be proficient at it and good at it, because this is a critical system of your coach and you don't want it failing. So this is just going to be a high-level overview of how I chose to do the tubes in our coach, and hoping I can encourage you guys to at least inspect and have it done if you choose not to do it. But for those of you that choose to do it, you can easily do this out of carbon steel and even do like slip joints and weld them up. They don't necessarily have to be butt welded and purged, argon purged and everything like I did. But there again, this is just a video on showing you how I chose to do it, and hopefully to give you some ideas and encourage you to look at this system on your coaches, so you doesn't leave you stranded on the road and incur a tow bill plus a heavy charge for a repair shop out of town. And anyway, I'll take you along and show you kind of how I went about from start to finish on our... I think I have all my supplies here at hand now. I needed 290s, a 45, and I grabbed a 2-foot section of straight. I think I need about 6-7 inches of that for the upper. From the thermostat housing over to the top hose. Now, I really wanted to go black silicone just because I know some people like the blue because it shows off the bling. Personally, I wanted to go black because I wanted it to blend. I didn't want it to kind of jump out in your face. I've got a lot of polished stainless and whatnot in my engine bay, and I really wanted black. But they had 190 and the straight, and I needed 290s and a 45. So they were short 190 and a 45 in black at the time. They said they would probably be a week to 10. They couldn't guarantee it within less than 10 days when they would have them back in stock and out to me. So that was going to push it close to 2 weeks before I got it. This is kind of my own fault because I had this on the calendar to probably do 3 weeks ago. But I had a side job come in. I thought I'll take me a week and a half to do the side job, make a few bucks, and it ended up biting me because now I've only got a week to do this job before the wife and I leave on our first trip. So beggars couldn't be choosers at this point. I really didn't. I thought I'm going through all this work. I'm going to put silicone hose on it. The last 2 times I did it, I just used rubber, and I haven't had any problems. I don't have any problems with rubber hose. They work great for the intended purposes. It's just, this is probably going to be the last time I do this.
And so I figured I would go the silicone route. Also, I bought a box of Breeze hose clamps. I like these constant tension clamps. This is what was on it originally. I don't know if it's the same brand or not, but it did have these constant tension clamps on it from Monaco. But they're 23 years old, so I thought I'd buy some new ones, and I've had good luck with the Breeze brand. So there's those. I also had to buy a 1-inch NPT stainless steel coupler for the makeup hose adapter where it goes on. So I ordered this just from my local Granger, but it's just a 1-inch NPT coupler in stainless, and I ended up going with the 110 gauge. 40 gauge seemed a little thin. They didn't have an 80 gauge. They had a 110 gauge at the branch, and you know, it's overkill, but it'll never fail. So the Schedule 41 seemed a little thin, and where this is going to be hanging off of it and bouncing, I just wanted a little extra wall thickness, so this will work perfect. And then also I got my 245s and my straight piece that'll make up the lower section, and over here I've got a 90 that will make up my upper section. I just need to bead roll a rib in each end like I did here in the straight piece that I'll end up using. Now you can see, I don't know if this is going to show up on camera or not. Pretty corroded and pitted. I don't have any pinholes. I don't have anything where it's gone through. But some of these are a little thin, and I just don't trust this anymore. Now that being said, I know there's a lot of people that are having problems with these on newer coaches and ours, on 8s and 9s, that are already having these fail. So maybe the taking them out, sanding them down, and painting them a couple times has paid off for me and gave us the longevity I needed out of it. But at this point, I decided to go stainless because that way it'll outlast me and the coach from here on out, and I won't have to mess with this again. Same thing with the silicone hoses. So anyway, I'm going to take and mark my 45s. I will end up having 3 welds. So I'll have a 45 here, another 45, and I'll have a short section where I'll have 1, 2, 3 welds. Yep, I'll have 3 welds on this one, no welds on the upper one, but where I have to add a little bit onto this one. And I think I'm going to make this one maybe a 1/2 inch streak, maybe an inch shorter, and move this bung down another inch. So I still have my 2.5, what is that? Probably 2.5 inch. Yeah, 2-inch area for the hose. But I can barely get my fingers in between the inlet on the block and here, and it makes it a bear to get this out. So if I had another inch inside of here, that would be even better, easier to put this in actually. So I'll probably move this down an inch and cut this off, make this an inch shorter. But anyway, so I'm gonna get busy. I've got all my fabrication stuff out. My old school cheap hose clamps that I've cut windows in for clamping and tacking. That's kind of a cool little trick that works really well. So anyway, I'm gonna get busy marking these up and cutting tube. So there's a couple of things when you're working with this tubing. First of all, I don't know if it'll show up or not, but they put a pretty heavy coating of grease, let's see if that shows up or not, down inside when they're drawing the mandrel through. There you go, there's a big old glob of it down there. When they're drawing the mandrel through, they use a thick lubricant to draw the mandrel through. So make sure you clean that thoroughly for a couple of reasons. Number one, for your welding, and number two, so you don't contaminate your coolant that you're just going to go ahead and put into it. So what I ended up doing was I made a couple of reference marks on the existing tubing, and this is fairly easy to duplicate one when you're designing a new one like exhaust or even a coolant line, something like this from scratch. You kind of have to be at the vehicle to be able to know where your clearance issues and stuff are at. Where I'm duplicating one, I can pretty much do it right here on the bench. So what I did is I kind of put some random marks of where I wanted my welds to be. So there'll be 3 of them. And so I trimmed each 45 back so that I wouldn't have the weld right underneath where I'm going to put the bung. So you kind of have to plan a little bit in advance. And then this one here is just going to be a random length. So this will probably be the last one I do because I can cut it anywhere. It's, you know, it's arbitrary as far as where this falls. So I want to get from the engine to here first. So I'm going to start with these two bends because they're on different planes. So I laid one out, marked it, then I laid the other one out, cut them both down, and this is where those hose clamps with the windows come into play, is because you can clamp them on there, and you can, and then I've got reference marks, so if I pull it apart, I can reference it right back together with my reference marks there. So because they will be clocked differently. So this one lines up, so I've got it to where it lays right on top of the 40. Now this 45 here is perfect. This one here, I think, is a little more than a 45. So because it comes over and it's about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch off at this end a little bit. And even if I try to clock it, a little bit, what happens is I end up going up, changing the plane. So I'm trying to stay on the same plane. Reference mark. So now I'm on the plane here. This one here is 45. This one here is 45. Now what I'll end up doing is I'll end up just kissing this side a little bit more with the grinder when I square the end off. Same thing on the other one, so they fit together. Otherwise, if you do one and not the other one, like split the difference of the angle. If you don't do that, you're going to end up with like a baloney cut, and you're not going to have a good fitment. So you want to match them exactly so they stay a perfect circumference of each other. So that right there is pretty much spot on. I'm landing right on my mark here, and I'm lining up pretty close over here. So what I'll end up doing then now is before I may tack this one. I'll probably put a couple tacks on this one, and then I can use my clamp over here. But I will come in and I will just sneak up on this angle and then match it with the other angle to get this straight piece. The bung will get the bung can get the hole drilled in it and welded in after the fact. Although, while I've got a short piece, it may be easier to set up in the mill and bore the hole. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll go ahead and get this piece cut. And I do want to stay back just a little bit further. I want to stay back about 1 inch further, and then move the bung over. So that's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and get this piece ready to go. But I think I'm gonna throw a couple of tacks on this piece, and then while these are locked into the correlation that I need them, and with the clocking, and then I'll go ahead and work on this one, then I can get the last one. So I just put some angle plates up here so I can make sure everything's I could clamp it, but I haven't. Now, one thing I've noticed, one thing I wanted to point out is I like to do my tack welds autogenous, meaning I don't want to add any filler because I don't want a raised hump there, number one. And number two, I'm just blast tacking it so that because I'm not purging, I haven't purged this yet. So I don't want 100% penetration with that tack weld because it'll sugar down inside. So I just get the puddle molten enough to fuse the two pieces together. I did it in about 6 spots here. See my reference marks are still there. So what that'll do is it will make sure that when I come back in and have it going, I'll weld over these tacks and they will just become part of the weld, and they'll get the same penetration. Now, I'll wait till weld. This isn't meant to be a course on welding. You should have your stainless steel welding kind of at a point where you can make solid welds before you get to this point. So this isn't a welding video. This is basically just to show you how I went about upgrading the coolant tubes on our Monaco coach Roadmaster chassis. That's mainly what this video is. So I won't go into a lot of welding details for that matter, but I do like to just do an autogenous tack so that when I come in and go over and I'm adding filler, that I get the same ripple, same penetration as I go right over my tacks. So now that I've got these held in place there, I'm gonna go ahead and line up
my tube, and I want to give it about an inch more. So I'll make a mark right there, which I did. Now I'll go cut this, and I'm going to cut it on just a little bit of an angle. I needed about 8 degrees difference, so I ground this one here at about 4 degrees. Now I'll grind this one here at about 4 degrees, and I should get a perfect matchup. I have it clamped, reference marked where the original bung is, and then I moved it about 1.25 inches over. The bung measures 1 3/4 inch in diameter, so where I want it to land, I moved it in 7/8 of an inch. So that's where it'll be. That will give me still roughly a little over 2 inches, maybe 2 1/4 inches of hose fitment onto here, enough to put the hose on and the clamp right before the bead roll there. However, I think before I get any further with this, I strongly think I am going to put maybe it's not as many tacks as I did on this side, but maybe 3 or 4 tacks here. And I actually think I'm going to go ahead and cut and tack this piece on as well. And I'm going to do a test fitment mainly because I am moving the location of that bung. And I know where the makeup hose come down, it was awfully close to the frame rail. So I want to make sure I don't get this all done fully welded and that bung hit. So I want to just put a couple of tacks, maybe 3 or 4 around this one. I'll tack that one and do a test fit and make sure that bung is going to be in the correct location before I go any further. So there is the new tube all tacked together. I've got it sitting right dead below the old one, so all the angles. Like I said originally, this bend right here is a little off on the 45, but up until that point it follows, and then it exits the same. You can see right there. So, and then the angle on that side. So what I'm going to do now, everything's tacked together, I'm going to go test fit it into the coach. I'm going to use the old 45 degree and make sure everything fits good, and then notate where I'm going to put that bung to make sure it fits and gives myself plenty of clearance for the hose. Test fit was successful. Everything lined right up. I even put the clamps around each end. One clamp was about right here, just over the frame, and then the other one was just in here about 2.5, 3 inches from the end at the lower radiator hose. So everything looked good. I've got my position identified for the bung on the tube, and all that's left is I need to take the upper one now and go over to the bead former here and form the hose rib on the end of each one, and this is ready to go. So I think I'll just go clean the welding table up, get it all cleaned off, and get ready to wipe this down, get the purge set up, machine radius in the bung, a fish mouth, and this is ready to final weld. Making progress. I just used the bead former to roll the beads in each end. This will be the upper tube. Got that ready to go in, and I just used the mill to clamp the lower pipe in, and use the rotobit, rotobroach to cut the hole for the bung. I just parted off a section of the bung here in the lathe, so I just need to fish mouth this to a 2 1/4 inch diameter tube, and then that will sit down over that hole, and then I can start welding up do the final welding on the lower tube. Okay, so there is the lower tube all welded. A couple shots of the welds here. So I got the tape all removed where I was back purging everything, so let that cool, and I'll run over it with some Scotch-Brite, and it should be ready to install. I think I might cap the ends and inject a little bit of air in and make sure everything's leak-proof, but I'm feeling pretty good about how all the welds are as far as being tight and secure. I didn't have any blowouts or anything like that. So she's all done, all new coolant tubes in it. I've got the coolant topped off, it's been running. There's the upper hose. I've got a new water pump, thermostat, upper coolant hose, then over to a stainless 90. I don't know if this one's gonna show up or not, but it's right. You can see where it connects to the upper radiator. So before I put coolant in it, I went ahead and pressurized it to the 13-pound capacity, made sure I didn't have any leaks, it held good. Another thing I wanna mention, if you're using these constant tension, which I highly recommend you do, these are Breeze brand made by Norma. In my opinion, they're probably some of the best ones available, but they have a torque spec on them. These are torqued to 90 inch-pounds. So don't just crank down on these things. You can damage the hoses, but these have a torque spec. So make sure you torque these properly. I think that pretty much covers the replacement of our coolant tubes, our coolant drain and refill. So I appreciate everybody for watching, and go out and check yours out and make sure your coolant tubes are not rusted, about ready to fail on you. Thanks for watching.